Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. It is a great day when we have our friends on from the USS Midway Museum, and joining us is Admiral retired Terry Kraft, the president and CEO of the museum. How you doing, Terry?
Well, you always say it's a great day on Midway, so I'm doing fantastic.
It is always a great day. And joining me is my longtime friend and colleague, Sal Giammatta. And Sal is on the Midway board, and he will be doing soon-to-be-launched On the Street podcast with Cloudcast Media. Sal, how you been?
I'm doing great, Drew. Great to join you, as always.
Oh, that's terrific. We'll get right to it. Terry, how long you been CEO?
Well, a little over 2 months now, Drew.
So you're a veteran. Okay, yeah. In more ways than one, obviously, in that. Enjoying it?
I love it. I took over from a legendary guy, Mac McLaughlin, was their only CEO for the first 19 years. And so they're getting used to the new guy. And the Midway is kind of my happy place when I go to work every single day.
Well, you folks have been doing just unbelievable work since, and a lot of hard work to get there, as Sal well knows. A lot of pushback, the history behind it too, Terry. And thank God there were some people like the Scott McGaws and the Malin Burnhams and everyone that said, we're bringing this thing here over our dead bodies. And it did it. And talk about just the unbelievable success you folks have had.
Yeah, what's neat about the Midway is anyone who's ever been involved in the Midway, like Scott, Vince, Malin Burnham, they stay involved with the ship. So it's so great to hear, about the stories about getting Midway here, bringing the ship here, opening the museum in 2004. And it's great that next year is going to be our 20th anniversary here in San Diego. We have a lot of great things planned for that.
Yeah, and just a full disclosure, as Terry knows, and of course I think Sal does too, I've been honored to be involved with the Classroom of the Future Foundation almost since its inception in '97. And the very first annual event, first event on the Midway was our event many years ago. Terry, we really appreciate your longtime support of the Classroom of the Future Foundation. You were at our annual event at Qualcomm, giving away so much stuff. And I mean, this could be a 16-hour interview. We wouldn't even touch 1/10 of all the great things you've been involved in. Sal, before we start talking about building a Freedom Park, the Midway's always been associated with school and Midway U and getting kids on board, correct?
Absolutely. You hearken back to the inception of the effort to bring the Midway here over 20 years ago. At the time, I was with the San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau, and our CEO at the time, Ryan Reinders, was a champion of the project. In fact, I think the organization made an initial loan to the museum organizing committee to get things rolling and to get the ship here. And we knew even at that time that the Midway would be a huge success and an iconic part of the local visitor industry. And in fact, 20 years later, we find that it has become a tremendous success and has exceeded all of the expectations. And that's just in the first chapter. As I know you'll talk later about Freedom Park, the next chapter. So Terry was brought on board not only to continue to guide the organization, but to oversee this tremendous piece of what will be part of the Midway legacy, Freedom Park.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, Terry.
Well, first off, I'll follow up on Sal. We've been very successful thanks to really our volunteers, 700 volunteers that make the ship go every single day. We've got 200 on the staff. And I'll just brag for a minute, we're the #1 ship museum in the world, #1 TripAdvisor attraction in San Diego. And we're very proud of that. But you mentioned going on in the next phase, and really the next phase is building Freedom Park. Freedom Park at Navy Pier is the full name. It's something that we promised to do when we opened the park, and it's taken a while to jump through all the hoops with working with the port, working with Coastal Commission. to get this going, but it's going.
No, that's terrific. Is there a date of when things will be broken ground, so to speak, or there's still more permits to? Certainly, there's money to raise as well. Correct?
Yeah. So this is a public-private partnership for sure, and we got formal approval, unanimous approval from the Coastal Commission in February. That started the five-year time clock to build Freedom Park, and probably the work from the port has already begun reinforcing the pier for the extra weight, but we're going to do a groundbreaking in February of next year, and that's when that ugly old Building 11 at the head of the pier is going to come down, and you're going to see Midway in all her glory at that time.
No, that's going to be something. We're chatting with the retired Terry Kraft. He is the president and CEO of the USS Midway Museum. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 17th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, these beautiful Mission Fed studios in Scripps Ranch. Mission Fed's been doing great things for more than 60 years, joined by my colleague Sal Giametta, a board member of the USS Midway Museum and soon to be an On the Street podcaster with Cloudcast Media. You know, Terry, we were just chatting a little bit about, and Sal can address this as well. There's so many things that are in the DNA of the Midway. It's a great tourism experience. It's a great supporter of nonprofits in our region. But your bread and butter are the volunteers. Talk about that.
Absolutely. And they inspire me every day. Mac told me, hey, if you're ever having a bad phone call or a bad meeting, just go down and talk to a docent. And that's exactly right. That's what I do. I mean, they're the first people you see when you walk on board the ship, and they really make the experience. When I was interviewing for Midway, I read all of our TripAdvisor reviews and everything else. And the number one thing that was mentioned was our volunteers. And you'll read comments like, I met an actual veteran, right? In San Diego, we tend to take it for granted because we're everywhere. But if you're from Middle America, you may not even know a veteran. So these people are introducing them not just to the USS Midway, but the idea of service, the idea of sacrifice, and about what they went through serving. And they're not all just Navy guys. They come from all different services. Or you may just be someone that likes aircraft carriers. We'll take you too. But the one thing that unites them is the values that we talk about honoring veterans on Midway. Yeah,
there's no question about that. And Sal, you've been around for many, many years. You've been a great community leader, whether it's Conviz or Chief of Staff of Ron Roberts and so forth. And I know when you're on that ship and you see these volunteers and just the enthusiasm they have when they chat with the tourists must be something for you.
No question. And it's the first thing, as Terry mentioned, that you notice when you approach the ship. And, many of these folks, they're wearing their jacket with their cap, and you could just see in their expression how excited they are. This isn't a volunteer situation where you're simply looking for something to do, but these people live, breathe, and sleep the Midway. And you could see it in their attitude and in their level of customer service and their commitment to service excellence. They really want to put on a good show for guests, whether it's a resident or visitor alike.
Yeah, and I'll just add, if you ever want to be a CEO and get a lot of feedback, you're going to get a lot of feedback on board Midway. I got 700 bosses.
Well, is that counting the board? And Sal, one of them over here, right to my left?
And the board as well. But that's what's great.
Right.
We have a fantastic board, so well connected. And if there's anybody I ever really need to talk to in the city or anywhere else, somebody on the board knows them and can make the intro. So not just, getting to lead the Midway, but what's been fun is getting to know all the leadership in San Diego Tourism Authority, people like Julie Coker, Joe Stuyvesant at the port. All these people want to make San Diego a better place to live.
Well, the vibe that Mac, the inimitable Mac McLaughlin, created is just absolutely spectacular for 87 different reasons. And, of course, he's humble as can be and always gives credit to everybody else but himself. And I know that's in your DNA as well, Admiral, in that area. But people want to work with you, and they love it. You folks have benefited more than 2,000 nonprofit organizations, and the foundation itself is a nonprofit. But talk a little bit about this, and you can add to it, Sal. You folks are an economic driver in San Diego. You bring a lot of money because of the folks that come on board, the cruise ships are coming, hotels folks. Talk about that.
There was a study done that found we've contributed about $74 million to the community to that general area in the Embarcadero since we began 19 years ago. So we're proud of that. We have over 1 million visitors a year, and it allows us with and we do over 400 events a year at night, corporate events and those kind of things. And, the funding that we make allows us to support a lot of other groups. We have over 50,000 kids a year on board in our education program. So we service every district in San Diego. If they can't afford a bus to get to the Midway, we buy them a bus and we get them on board the ship. So I love our education program. I love being able to give out scholarships. You mentioned the Qualcomm scholarships that we did.
Yeah.
We also do the newly named Mac McLaughlin Scholarship for San Diego High School, and it's important to me to grow our position in the community and our leadership in the community.
Yeah, I mentioned the Classroom of the Future Foundation actually was working with folks like Rudy Shappy on the education team, and Sal, Midway U started with the Classroom of the Future Foundation, and the work with the Midway and continues. We work with some of the folks at San Diego County office to gin up some cybersecurity events. We got some of that that's being teed up as well on that. But Sal, talk about just how important it is for folks to experience sort of the Midway experience, so to speak.
Well, I think it's incredibly important, not just in learning about the history of the Midway and how significant it was to our national defense and part of the military community. I think one element that a lot of people locally, residents, don't realize is not only do visitors go on board as they do to enjoy the ship, but it's a tremendous interest to our convention and meeting segment of the visitor industry. And by that, I mean, you might drive by, or if you live downtown in the area, walk by the Midway on a given night, and you'll see some huge party going on up on the flight deck. And this is important to the Midway because it's a revenue source, but many conventions who don't want to lock up their people in a hotel ballroom all the time are always on the lookout for an interesting venue that not only is exciting to experience, but has a meaningful part in San Diego's history. And the Midway is one of those. I can't tell you how many convention groups fight to book one of their nights or events on board the Midway. And of course, particularly in the summertime, on deck with all those planes, and the vista of the city skyline and Coronado on the other side is just a memorable experience for many of those convention delegates that they talk about for years to come after they depart San Diego.
Without question.
Yeah, we did a couple proms this year, and I went out one Saturday night just to see what it was like, and it was really nice. I mean, they were filling up the hangar bay, they had a disc jockey, they had food, they had like a mini casino night. And then they could go up to the flight deck, and they were doing. We did fireworks for them off the bow.
Nice.
I mean, it's a lot nicer than my prom, that's for sure.
Well, Terry, on that note, you have events aboard the ship all the time. We've got
every night
a big holiday coming up, the July 4th celebration in a couple of weeks. I imagine you have things going on at that time too. Yeah.
So we open the flight deck for people to watch all the different fireworks that are going on. That sold out in 2 hours. And so, we'll have 2,300 people up on the flight deck for 4th of July.
Yeah, and now talking, to one of my close friends, Craig Fisher, on your staff, you guys are going to be doing Veterans Day Parade as well. So
we are running the Veterans Day Parade this year.
I know, and so we're going to try to tee you up with that. And before we come, one more thing before we go to break on this, I was honored to be the chair of one of those ongoing events called the American Freedom Festival, that was put on by Ted Hacker of Nashville and Sergeant Major Jack Tilley, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army. And we brought on groups such as Ronnie Millsap and Kenny Loggins, and raised money for local veterans groups. We did that for about 6 years. We come back from break. We're going to continue the conversation with Rear Admiral retired Terry Kraft. He is the president and CEO of the USS Midway Museum, joined by his colleague and Midway Museum board member Sal Giametta. Chat more about how our listeners can support the great efforts of the Midway Museum, volunteering, contributions, events, and everything in between. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to the nation's longest-running community podcast, Spotlight on the Community, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, So we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and you are listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 17th year. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, the beautiful Mission Fed studios here in Scripps Ranch. Mission Fed has just always been a stalwart as well in the community for more than 60 years. Honored to have in the studio with us today Admiral Terry Kraft, retired from the Navy after a storied career, I'm sure. He's now president and CEO of the USS Midway Museum, a veteran of 2 months of the museum, if I've got that right, joined by my colleague Sal Giametta, USS Midway Museum Board of Director, and soon to be an on-the-street podcaster for Cloudcast Media. So Sal, let me ask you this, and then we can tee it over to Terry on this. What can our listeners do to support the efforts of the board of the museum? And of course, we'll hear from Terry on the museum itself.
Well, I think people can support the organization, obviously, by patronizing the Midway. Also, for those who are interested, as Terry mentioned earlier, volunteer opportunities abound on the Midway. It's an organization that makes volunteerism a part of its mission and does a great job at recruiting and training and supporting its volunteers. And then, of course, for those, at least locally, who aren't as aware of the Midway as they should be, those who are can be helping us to tell the story of the Midway and to share that. But I do think Freedom Park on Navy Pier, which Terry talked about earlier, is going to be an opportunity to really excite the community about that. Obviously, there's a fundraising element to that too, and so people can contribute to that as well.
All right, Terry, what else can you add to that?
I would just offer, we have an active membership program. We have over 14,000 members on Midway, so if you're interested in a repeat visit or just some good deals, become a member. We offer things like behind-the-scenes tours for our member, where we're going to take you to spaces on the ship that nobody else gets to go to on a normal tour. We do special member events. We're doing a Steel Beach picnic on the 24th of June for members. So you can join up and be a member and just kind of be in the loop. For Freedom Park, it is going to be the largest veterans park on the West Coast. So as Sal said, it's going to be a place to honor veterans, and it's going to have a lot of interactive things that are going to be there in the park as well. So we're excited to kind of move out on that. And there's going to be a lot more information that's going to flow once we break ground next year on the park.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. It's February next year, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We're going to do the groundbreaking at that time, and really might be more of a hammer as we start taking down the building there at the head of the pier. But it's going to you're transitioning a big parking lot into a very small parking lot and a big park.
Yeah, and as Sal knows, being in a leadership position for Conviz and, of course, for the supervisors, that whole area right by the Midway is being transformed. The streets, Seaport Village will be, and so forth. If you haven't been to San Diego and you're coming back after 10 years on the Space Station Mir, it's a different area, is it not?
It most certainly is. I've lived downtown for 33 years now, and I've seen the transformation. Of course, the Midway coming to the waterfront was a big part of the push to tell the story of downtown and the waterfront. But for those who do come to San Diego and are, let's say, coming from the airport, as they come down Harbor Drive and around that crescent, if they haven't been here for a long time, they are amazed at the skyline and what's happened there. And of course, there's a lot more to come. There's the biotech campus at IQHQ right across the street from the the Midway, which will come online before long. There's the campus at Horton, which transforms the old former Horton Plaza shopping mall into a biotech hub complete with labs. And of course, development along the waterfront continues as well. So lots of things are happening in downtown San Diego along the waterfront that will complement what the Midway is doing.
Yeah, and Terry, also, one of the things that we've been talking about on this show for 17 years is collaboration. The days of being in a silo means you'll die in a silo.
Right.
It's simple. That's how that's going to work as the dollar shrinks for this. You guys are absolutely the poster child for collaboration and the epitome of collaboration. Talk about that.
Well, first off, getting back to Freedom Park, I mentioned this as a partnership, but 80% of the money, over $55 million, is going to be raised by the Midway and our foundation for this park. But when it's done, the port's going to own it. It's going to be a community asset forever. So that's a big collaboration in that we're basically paying for this park, and it's going to be for the use of the community. In terms of foundations, most museums have foundations to support the museum. Our foundation actually supports dozens of mostly veteran-oriented charities in San Diego. So we're proud to be able to give that back as well. Yeah, and again, not to beat the horse dead on it, but I'm going to do it. And you guys have been just great supporters, very important supporters of the Classroom of the Future Foundation. And when you think about it, our whole focus is about career pathways and technology and how the classroom is being transformed. You folks have always been on the top of technology in the Midway from the time that you run the seas and moving forward, correct? Right. When we bring the kids aboard for our educational program, 50,000 kids a year, if we're talking about STEM, we're talking about building electrical circuits and those kind of things, but we're also showing them kind of some things they don't get in school, the values like teamwork and honesty and dedication. And we use the ship, the things that crew members do on a ship, we use that as example.
Right.
But, we take them into where the mess cooks are and say, these guys don't get a lot of, you don't see them on the movies about aircraft carriers, but they're just as important to the team as everybody else. And so we kind of get some of those ideas across to the kids, I think. Yeah,
without question on that. We're chatting with Terry Kraft. He's the president and CEO of the USS Midway Museum, joined by Sal Giametta, a USS Midway Museum board member. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community. We got a couple more minutes to go here. Sal, do you have any final comments?
Well, I want to say we talked about the history of the Midway. We talked briefly about the former president and CEO, Mac McLaughlin. Mm-hmm. I think I was amazed when Mac announced that he was going to retire. The national competition there was to attract a new leader. Now, Mac used to joke, I think, all the time about how when he applied, there were, including himself, maybe 5 applicants, and he would joke that the other 4 weren't really interested in the job, and that's why he got it. Yeah. The reality is there were 500 applicants for this position.
My goodness.
That Terry participated in, and of course, he was the best of the crew. And I just wanted to ask you, what excites you the most about taking the helm of the Midway?
Well, thanks. It was a process for sure. Yeah. But my favorite thing is just walking on board the ship. Mm-hmm. The smells are the same. The sights are the same. I've served on aircraft carriers for 34 years. I flew 40 Desert Storm combat missions off Midway back in '91. So many memories just come flooding back, and there's memories for me on every corner of that ship. But I love just walking around and seeing our docents. And sometimes I pitch in. I'm a really average docent. To just talk about, the ship and the idea of service and sacrifice, and really what families go through, what people go through when you serve your country. So I just love watching people walking around and being a docent.
Exactly. So imagine that if someone wants to connect with you folks in education, they need to contact Tina in the education division. If they want to volunteer, talk to some of the volunteer coordinators and so forth. Sure. They can find it on the website. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all on our website, www.midway.org. You can find big things to click on to volunteer or to participate in Midway in any way that you want. Whether you're a member or you just want to come out and visit and hang out with us, happy to have you. We're about to go to our summer hours 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. And come on out. We have parking.
You do have parking. I think that's something that is a very valuable word these days.
Yes, it is.
Well, listen, I just cannot begin to thank you enough, Terry, for coming on the show. I know you're probably drinking out of a fire hose still. I really appreciate that, and for everything that you and your great team has done and will continue to do for folks in San Diego, Classroom of the Future Foundation, and fill in the other 2,000 organizations. Sal, it's always a pleasure when I have you co-host with me, and thank you for your great work on the Midway and everything else you're doing as well. And I know you will be a frequent co-host with me, I hope.
Thank you, Drew. Pleasure to join you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Terry, we'll look forward to having you back on and some of your folks, and just wishing you nothing but continued great success.
It's my honor to represent the Midway and our volunteers and our staff today on your show. Thank you, Drew.
Absolutely, my pleasure. We've been chatting with Rear Admiral retired Terry Kraft, the president and CEO of USS Midway Museum, the iconic USS Midway Museum right down on Harbor Drive, joined by my colleague Sal Giametta. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to another edition of the nation's longest-running community podcast here at Mission Fed Credit Union Studios. Mission Fed's been doing great things for San Diego for more than 60 years. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.